How's it going, traders? Hopefully you guys enjoy this weekly Forex forecast, and make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Alright, starting things off with the US dollar Cot Report. The past week the banks added 42 long contracts, and they also added 2,634 short contracts. And if you do want that Cot Report spreadsheet, links in the description down below. So looking at the weekly chart here of the US dollar, I talked about how it's most likely we would be seeing a pullback to this weekly demand, and as you can see, we are clearly reacting off of the US dollar weekly demand, and that is, in my opinion, why we are starting to see the US dollar rally a little bit, because it's very important to understand we have a weekly uptrend with weekly demand in control at the moment in the US dollar. So that is why we are seeing the rally up in the US dollar, but that does not mean that the US dollar is going to go even higher from here. If you look at the daily chart here, you can clearly see, I talked about this in last week's forecast, that we are reacting off of this daily supply. So right now, this is the daily supply that was responsible for pushing the dollar down to weekly demand. So with that being said, as far as the US dollar goes, we have to ask ourselves, where will it be headed? Well, just because it's in weekly demand doesn't mean it'll be going up. I would need to see significant 4-hour zones removed first, like this one, before we can really start to make trading decisions. So if you are looking for dollar longs, your confirmation long would look something like this, where we can remove this 4-hour supply zone, which would be 4-hour confirmation. Now, the problem with that is if you do get in long, you'd have to take profits at about 113, maybe 113.5 right before this daily supply, because this clearly was supply. So as far as the US dollar goes, if you want to get in long, I think it's still definitely fine. We just want to see this 4-hour supply remove first for confirmation. Shorting the US dollar, not the best idea, considering we are in a weekly uptrend with weekly demand in play at the moment. So both sides, I could see the argument for shorting and for going long, but shorts, I think that day trading the US dollar short is much better than swing trading long or swing trading short, kind of just based on this weekly trend. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions about what I just said about the US dollar, please do not hesitate to ask in the comments down below. All right, next we are going to look at the EURUSD forecast. The past week the banks added 24,000 long positions, and they got rid of 2,728 short positions. Now if you look at the Euro-US dollar, remember we have a weekly downtrend, and we are clearly seeing a rally up in the euro right now. But if you look at a daily chart, something very, very interesting has happened here. If you look, we had a very clear daily downtrend on the euro, and then we broke this daily supply right here. And this supply was very significant because we had a reaction off of it right here. So we broke that daily supply and this downward trend line, which left us with this daily demand zone. Now, since the euro is in a weekly downtrend and the US dollar is in daily and weekly demand right now, I don't really recommend just buying this zone with a stop loss down below and hopefully hope that the trade will work out. Instead, what I think that we could be doing here is looking for a 1-hour confirmation as price comes down and hits this daily demand. So if this daily demand gets contacted, we should be on a one-hour chart looking for a confirmation trade long. If you don't know what confirmation trading is, check out my trading tips playlist. There are confirmation trading videos in there. And also check out the Patreon membership if you want my zones on a daily basis for all of the pairs that you see on the right. Check that out. Links in the description down below. There are different types of memberships, and I'd be happy to see you guys join the team for my daily chart analysis. So if the daily demand does get hit, I would be over here on the 1-hour chart looking for confirmation. Now, if you want to trade short to this daily demand, that's definitely fine in my opinion, but it would have to be on a 1-minute chart, so I don't even really recommend that. So hopefully we can get the pullback down to that daily demand, and then we can look for 1-hour confirmation. Other than that, I really don't see any trading opportunities. I don't really feel comfortable shorting the euro until we can maybe pull back to this weekly supply that has been tested, and then we could look for a 4-hour confirmation short in there. But until then, I really don't recommend getting in short, because I think we could definitely see a reaction off this daily demand. Now remember, we do have a weekly downtrend, so it does not mean that this daily demand will hold forever. So if we do get a trade on a 1-hour chart, maybe looking at 2-to-1, 1-to-1, would be enough profit margin kind of based on that. So That's pretty much all I have to say on the euro. A little bit confusing, but at the end of the day, when I see a daily confirmation like that, we kind of have to use that daily zone to base our trade off of. If we do get this daily demand removed like that and we don't get the confirmation, then at that point I think it's safe to maybe look for shorts inside the daily supply if we do get that daily supply zone. And remember, if you are a YouTube or Patreon member, you will get all of my zones like this every single day. So hopefully that makes sense on the euro US dollar. All right, on to the gold forecast. The past week, the banks added 1,963 long positions, and they also added 10,887 short positions. Now remember, if you've been watching the last couple forecasts, I talked about how prices in weekly demand and 3-month demand and a 3-month macro uptrend. So that is a very, very important factor here. In my opinion, I think that we could see the end of gold's bear run around this area. It does not mean we're going to see a rally up here from now, but I think we could definitely see something like this take place in gold based on it being in 3-month demand. Now, as far as trading this pair goes right now, I will not deny it. It is a little bit confusing in my opinion. We have weekly demand in control and 3-month demand in control. But if you look at the daily time frame, we did get the confirmation here with the move up, but clearly this trend line held and we started to rally back down. So in my opinion, I'll keep it very, very simple. I don't really think we should be shorting gold right now unless it's on a 1-minute or 5-minute time frame based on daily demand, weekly demand, and 3-month demand being in control right now. So with that being said, what should we be doing? Well, as far as longs go, what I want to see is a clear shift in momentum here where we remove this supply, we remove this downward trend line, and then any daily demand down there that we get, it would be decent to look for confirmation trades in. So as far as longs go, that is pretty much the only time I'd be getting in long based on that daily chart. As far as shorting goes, this 1-hour zone I had for the members worked pretty well. I think I drew it after the fact. I'm not really sure. Anyways, shorting clearly is working sometimes, but the problem is, like I said, higher time frame demand is in control. So shorting, that is why, in my opinion, we are seeing these big moves up in gold, and then obviously they start to fail. So as far as shorts go, I'm not seeing much. There's really no trends even on the 4-hour or the 1-hour chart. So I pretty much don't like gold for trading right now. I would rather just wait to see this daily confirmation long before getting in long. And as far as shorts go, not really seeing a whole lot of opportunities. If you are going to short, based on what I said about the higher time frames, shorts must be taken on like a 1-minute or a 5-minute chart. That's it, based on the higher time frame demands being in control. So hopefully that makes sense on gold. I'm sorry I don't have an amazing setup on gold. I know a lot of traders like to trade gold, but that is just the reality of the markets this week. All right, on to USD Japanese yen. The past week, the banks added 15,278 long contracts, and they also added 6,996 short contracts. Now, it's important to look at the USD yen. We still have a weekly uptrend here. Overall, daily trend is up, although this sequence of time, it is clearly sideways. And same with the 4-hour chart. It's more visible on the 4-hour and the 1-hour charts. So with that being said, on USD yen, what do we do here? Well, in my opinion, we want to technically be trading with this overall weekly trend. So however you like to trade, just remember, the weekly trend is up. It does not mean that the weekly trend is going to continue, but the odds are definitely stacked in our favor that we trade long with that weekly trend. So I don't recommend shorting right now at all based on that weekly trend. So as far as longs go, what are our options? Well, this would have been a fantastic trading setup. I'm not sure if anybody took that. That would have been definitely a decent little trading setup in there. But for now, as far as trade setups go that have some potential, I am seeing this 4-hour area of demand right here. Now, this 4-hour demand is not located inside a weekly demand zone. So with that being said, we have to be cautious with getting long in this area. But if price does pull back to this 4-hour demand, we could be hopping down to a 15-minute chart looking for a confirmation long trade coming off of that 4-hour demand. So that is one option that I see on USD Japanese yen. As far as any other options go, I am not seeing a whole lot. Let's say on the 1-hour chart, we get something like this, where we get a deeper pullback and then a move up where we break this high and we have an uptrend on the 1-hour chart. Then at that point, we could start to set and forget trade longs on a 1-minute or a 5-minute chart based on this H1 uptrend if that does take place. Now, part of the YouTube and Patreon membership, I'm sorry to bring this up again, is I will mark out this trend. So if we get something like this, you will see an up arrow on my chart to indicate that the trend is up. Because in my opinion, there's a way to spot trends. That is very, very important. So those are pretty much the only two options that I see here on USD yen. Remember, weekly uptrend is currently in play, so we want to be trading with that uptrend until we can see a significant push down on the weekly or the daily chart, which we have seen a move down, but overall the trend on the weekly is still up. So we want to be looking for longs, and in my opinion, the best place to do it is inside that 4-hour area of demand. All right, on to the GBPUSD weekly forecast. The past week, the banks added 3,183 long contracts, and they got rid of 223 short positions. Now, right away, looking at this chart, it is extremely confusing to me, and here's why. Well, we have a weekly downtrend, so I want to be shorting based on that weekly downtrend because there's a downtrend, and it's that simple in my opinion. But when you come to the daily chart, you can see we clearly lost momentum here as price is pushing up. Not only that, we did get a daily confirmation right here with a daily demand zone, and we also have a 4-hour uptrend. So as you can see, price is all over the map here. It's extremely confusing in my opinion. But at the end of the day, we have to work with the higher time frames. And right now, we have a weekly downtrend and prices in weekly supply. Now, if we blow up the weekly chart here, you can clearly see that this weekly supply, not only has it been tested once right here, but as we are in for the second test, price is basically 3/4 of the way inside this zone. So in my opinion, this zone is looking weak, but that does not mean we won't see a reaction down from this zone. So as far as shorts go, what we need to wait for as we come to a 4-hour chart is we need to start to see this 4-hour chart turn around. Now, let me just draw out a trend line here to give a better indication, something like this. So your confirmation short on the 4-hour chart would look something like this, where we can remove this nearest 4-hour demand zone. And then if we're left with 4-hour supply, that would be your confirmation trade coming off of that 4-hour supply zone. And there's also this 4-hour demand zone to be removed for confirmation as well. So that's what I would wait for shorts. Now, let's say that you think that the GBPUSD is going to continue its move up and break this weekly downtrend. Then in my opinion, the only, and I cannot repeat this, the only conservative option, in my opinion, is to wait for this daily demand to be hit and then look for a confirmation long on a 1-hour chart inside that daily demand. That is all that I see on the GBPUSD. I'm not really going to talk about it anymore because I feel like I've done a pretty good job of not trying to complicate it. So hopefully that makes sense. And as always, if you have any questions or comments about that, just comment down below and I will respond to everyone. All right, USDCAD forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 2,195 long positions, and they added 223 short positions. Now, if you look at the weekly chart on the USDCAD, we clearly have a weekly uptrend. It's very possible that price could pull back to this weekly demand, but in the meantime, we have to be looking for longs to continue to trade with that weekly uptrend. So right away, if you look at the daily chart here, we are inside a daily demand zone. It has been tested here, and we are inside for a second test. That does not mean that we cannot look for longs, but longs are just a little bit lower odds compared to when price first contacted this daily demand zone. So since the zone is tested, usually on a daily chart, we want to look for 1-hour confirmation. But since the daily zone is tested, I think 4-hour confirmation is definitely going to be needed here. Now, on the 1-hour chart, there was a confirmation down here. Now, I don't really recommend trading the zone if price pulls back to that. Instead, what I would do is I would look on this 4-hour chart. And if you look on this 4-hour chart, we have a pretty nice 4-hour supply zone here. It was wicked through, but I'm not going to call that removed. So in my opinion, if you are looking for longs in USDCAD, and the only time I would get in long is if we can remove this 4-hour supply zone. So once this 4-hour supply zone is removed, to me that would be an indication that prices can potentially go up as we react off that daily demand. So I don't recommend shorting the USDCAD. I don't think that shorting is a very great option until we can get this daily demand removed first. And then to me, that would indicate that price is going to pull back to this weekly demand. But until that happens, we have to continue with our long bias. So like I said, for longs, which is the only thing I really think is okay right now, we need to see this confirmation. And if there's a 4-hour demand zone right here, you could look to trade that 4-hour demand as we come off of that daily demand. So hopefully that makes sense on USDCAD. I'm just waiting for that 4-hour supply to be removed to prove to me that price is going to continue up. All right, looking at the Aussie US dollar forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 887 long positions, and they added 15,200 short positions. Before we get started on the forecast and look at the charts, I just want to give a shout out to Rob, who sent me this trade that he took on one of my Aussie CAD zones that I had from the private weekly Forex Forecast. So congratulations to you, Rob. Thank you for sharing with that, and I'm happy to share this trade with everybody. And just wanted to point out the power of supply and demand. So with that being said, let's continue with the Aussie US dollar analysis. So as far as the Aussie dollar goes, we still have a weekly downtrend. We are kind of starting to see momentum shift on the 4-hour and the 1-hour chart. So to be very, very clear, I think going in long is a little bit risky because we haven't really seen any daily supply zones removed to prove to us that price is going to go up. But if you look at the 4-hour chart, we clearly have an uptrend here. It's pretty poor quality uptrend, but price is actually sitting inside of this 4-hour demand right now. So what you could be doing is looking for 15-minute confirmation longs coming off of that 4-hour demand zone and hope that price actually pushes up to this daily supply and that the US dollar continues to fall. So with that being said, that's pretty much all I see here. If we can get this 4-hour demand removed, then at that point I would look to potentially short. So if you're looking at the Aussie dollar and you're not really sure what to do, I would revolve it around this 4-hour zone because in my opinion it's a very, very strong zone with a 4-hour uptrend in play. So either we're going to react off the zone or we're going to break. So you could be looking for 15-minute longs or waiting for that zone to break and then waiting to short. So and I know I said the 15-minute chart, but if you look at the 1-hour chart, there's also a 1-hour supply zone here. If we get that removed, leaving us with 1-hour demand, you could also look to trade that area as well. But remember, longs are a little bit risky based on the weekly and the daily downtrend that we have on the Aussie US dollar. All right, looking at USDCHF, the Swiss franc, the past week the banks added 2,700 long positions and they got rid of 1,514 short positions. Now, if you look at the weekly chart, remember we do have that weekly uptrend, although I don't like the price action here. And if you look at the daily chart here, I actually pointed this out in last week's forecast that I said we could definitely see a reaction off of this daily demand. So go back and watch that if you would like to. And we are clearly seeing a reaction and a move up off of that daily demand zone. A little hidden demand zone that wasn't really high quality, but I definitely said we could see some sort of reaction off of it. So with that being said, I personally think we should be looking for longs. It's unfortunately on the 1-hour chart, I'm not seeing a whole lot for really any trading opportunities. I actually see one thing, and let me just point this out to you guys right now. There is this little 1-hour area of, it's not technically demand based on my chain analysis, but there is this little 1-hour zone, and you could look for 5-minute confirmation longs coming off of that 1-hour demand zone like that if price does pull back to that. But what I would be waiting for personally is I'd be waiting at this 4-hour chart. So since we have a weekly uptrend, daily uptrend with daily demand being in control down here, I want to be looking for longs. So with that being said, we had a uptrend here, as you can see with my trend line, and then all of a sudden price shot and broke. And the zone that broke that upward trend line is this 4-hour supply zone. So to keep it simple, I want to see a demand zone remove this 4-hour supply zone, and if we get 4-hour demand here, this is the 4-hour demand zone we would look to potentially get in long at. So that's all I'd be waiting for here on the USD Swiss. I think that's the safest bet. If we do get a 1-hour, very clean 1-hour uptrend, and then at that point you could start to look for set and forget trades long on the 1-minute or the 5-minute chart. But for me personally, I think it's best to wait for this 4-hour supply to be removed to prove to us that the zone that broke the trend line was removed and sellers are most likely not in control. So with that being said, longs are definitely looking like the best option here on USD Swiss as daily demand is in control. All right, looking at oil, last but not least, the past week the banks got rid of 869 long positions and they added 1,597 short positions. So on oil, if you've been watching my forecast for a while, I talked about how we could definitely see a reaction from oil from this area. I called this out as price was pretty much up here. So definitely go back and check those videos out. And we not only that, we did get a, oops, my mouse is a little screwed up. But we did get a daily confirmation here, and look at the reaction off of this daily demand zone that I had for the members and myself. So right now, daily demand is in control on oil, and higher time frame demand is in control as well. So I think oil could continue to push up. That is just my opinion. As far as trading setups go, since daily demand is in control, we should be looking for longs, in my opinion. The only problem with that is I'm not really seeing a whole lot of zones. There actually was a demand zone I missed down here. I'm just going to draw that out for the sake of it possibly being removed down here. So with that being said, there is a 1 hour demand zone right here, although it is very, very large. And I don't really recommend just taking this zone like that and praying that it kind of goes up. So if you like to day trade, there's this 1 hour demand zone. You could look for a 5-minute or a 1-minute trade coming off of that demand zone on the long side. I don't recommend shorting oil right now at all by any means, based on my macro and multiple time frame analysis. So that is one option. Wait for that 1 hour demand to be hit, and then look for a confirmation trade on a 5-minute or 1-minute chart. The next option is to wait for this 4 hour supply to be removed, and if we're left with 4 hour demand, you could use this 4 hour demand to look for a confirmation trade off of, but that zone will be applied later on the chart if that does take place. So hopefully that makes sense on oil. I'm not surprised at all to be seeing oil push up, even though we clearly had downward momentum. But the thing is, higher time frame demand zones are in play right now, and that is why we are seeing a move up on oil. Hopefully you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership if you need help finding your supply and demand zones. It's only $5 CAD per month. Hope to see you guys there and hope to see you in the next video.